It was supposed to be just another interview. Another audition. Another room filled with polite smiles, bottled water, and people making silent judgments behind clipboard eyes. For Camille Jackson, this one came after 2 weeks of non-stop castings for a national fashion campaign, the kind that could finally pay her rent on time, maybe even cover her sister's tuition. She'd worn her best, a sleek black turtleneck, high-waisted trousers, minimal makeup, and her hair, unapologetically natural in a halo of soft coils. Her portfolio was sharp, filled with editorials from independent magazines, and her walk? Clean. Confident. Controlled. She had trained for this. But as soon as she walked into the white-walled studio in Manhattan, the energy shifted. The three people behind the table glanced up, glanced at each other, then back at her with frozen professionalism. One woman gave a thin smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Thank you for coming in, Camille. Let's just get started." She struck her poses. Side profile. Headshot smile. Turn. Pause. The same rhythm she'd done 100 times. But halfway through, the man in the middle leaned forward, tapping his pen. "You have a very unique look," he said. Camille smiled. She'd heard that before, and sometimes it was a compliment. But then came the pivot. "We're really looking for someone who matches the aesthetic of the brand," the woman said carefully. "Clean, aspirational, luxury." Camille blinked. "And I'm not that?" A beat. Then the third panelist, who hadn't said a word, scribbled something on his notepad. No eye contact. The woman offered that same frozen smile. "You just don't look like the kind of girl our clients picture when they imagine themselves." Camille stood there, heartbeat thudding in her ears. "You mean your clients can't picture themselves looking like me?" No answer. Just silence. She gathered her things with measured grace and walked out, past the assistant who didn't meet her gaze, past the framed covers of supermodels with identical faces, past the front desk where no one told her goodbye. On the subway ride home, she didn't cry. Not yet. She just stared at her reflection in the scratch train window and thought, if I don't look the part, maybe I need to change what the part looks like. Camille didn't sleep that night. Instead, she sat on the floor of her tiny Brooklyn apartment, surrounded by vision boards and rejection letters. Her phone buzzed with filtered Instagram posts of other models smiling under studio lights, faces airbrushed into sameness. She stared at their success, and then at her own reflection, unfiltered, undone, and undeniably real. The hurt was still there, but something else rose up louder, something fierce. If they wouldn't open the door for someone like her, she'd stop knocking. By sunrise, she had made a decision. Camille reopened her dusty sketchbook from art school, the one she had closed when rent got tight and the fashion world made her feel too big, too black, too bold. She started sketching again, not the faces the industry wanted, but the ones it ignored: wide noses, natural curls, deep skin tones with unapologetic confidence. She named her concept, Raw Beauty Collective. At first, it was just an idea, an Instagram page and a few illustrations. Then it became photo shoots in alleyways and rooftops with friends who, like her, had been turned away for not fitting the brand. They styled each other. Shot on borrowed cameras. Wrote their own captions like declarations. We are not the exception. We are the standard. Representation isn't radical, it's overdue. People noticed. In a week, she had 500 followers. In a month, 10,000. Agencies still ignored her, but designers started DMing. Black girls from all over the country wrote messages like, "You made me feel seen." She launched a Kickstarter, not for herself, but for a campaign featuring models of every shade and shape, photographed without retouching. Her goal was $5,000. She raised $50,000 in 12 days. Suddenly, she wasn't just a model. She was a movement. By the time Raw Beauty Collective hit 100,000 followers, Camille's name began to buzz in circles that had once ignored her. Fashion blogs posted think pieces titled "Disrupting Beauty Standards, Who is Camille Jackson?" Brands that had passed on her 6 months earlier now quietly liked her posts, even reposted her campaign images, without asking. One emailed her directly, "We love your aesthetic. Would you be open to a partnership? No pay, but great exposure." She laughed out loud at that one. Still, not all attention was flattering. At a panel on diversity in fashion, a casting director name-dropped her movement. "We are inspired by what Camille's doing," right before presenting a runway lineup of the same 6 identical faces. In interviews, editors called her brave and edgy, but never professional, never visionary. There was always a qualifier, always a hint of surprise. As if her success was a fluke. As if it didn't belong. Camille kept pushing anyway. She launched a digital zine featuring interviews with underrepresented creatives, not just models, but stylists, photographers, makeup artists who had all heard the same phrase, "You were talented, but not quite the right look." She knew the look they meant. And she was tired of pretending it didn't mean white, thin, straight hair, safe. What stung the most wasn't the rejection. She had learned to expect that. What cut deeper was the quiet theft, the way the industry co-opted her message while still excluding her. Her ideas were suddenly trendy, but she still wasn't being offered the cover, the check, or the seat at the table. But Camille had already learned a powerful truth: they couldn't erase a voice that refused to be quiet. So she didn't rage. She built louder. It happened on a Wednesday morning. Camille was sipping black coffee in her kitchen, scrolling through her feed, when she saw it, a new global ad campaign by Maison Laure, one of the fashion world's most prestigious brands. A campaign supposedly celebrating real beauty, unfiltered voices. The tagline? "We are the standard." Her exact words. From her original Raw Beauty post. At first, she thought it was a coincidence. Until she clicked through. There it was, the exact quote, her phrasing, the same aesthetic, soft natural lighting, models of color in neutral tones, posing like freedom had just found them. It looked like her vision. It was her vision. Except, she wasn't in it. No one from her team was credited. None of her models were featured. And worse, the faces they chose, though technically more diverse, all still fit a mold. Just enough edge to look progressive, but still safe enough to land in airports and department stores. Camille's stomach turned. The brand that once told her she didn't look aspirational enough had taken her message, diluted it, and wrapped it in glossy marketing without ever acknowledging her. She thought about staying quiet. Letting it slide. That's how it usually went, small creatives being swallowed whole by massive machines. But not this time. She took a breath. Opened her notes app. Wrote a statement. And posted it with side-by-side images, hers and theirs. Her caption was simple. "They told me I didn't fit the part. Then they sold the part I created, without me. We see you. And we're not silent anymore." The post exploded. Tens of thousands of shares. Articles. Hashtags. Messages from other designers, activists, even former employees of Maison Laure. "They've done this before. We're with you. Enough is enough." It wasn't just about one campaign anymore. It was about years of voices stolen, faces excluded, ideas harvested without recognition. Camille wasn't asking for permission anymore. She was demanding ownership. And this time, the world was listening. The invitation came 3 days after the post went viral. It was from the Global Fashion Equity Forum, an annual, press-heavy event usually filled with powerful CEOs, glossy panels, and PR-friendly conversations about progress. Camille had never been invited before. Now, suddenly, they wanted her on the main stage. She almost deleted the email. But instead, she said yes, on her terms. No pre-approved questions. No tokenism. No handlers. If they wanted her presence, they'd have to hear her truth. The night before her speech, she walked into the mirror-lit ballroom where the forum would take place. She saw her name on the program, printed next to executives and icons. For a moment, the girl who was once told "you don't look like the brand" felt it all creeping back, the doubt, the dismissal, the exhaustion of always having to prove. But then she remembered the faces of the girls who'd messaged her, "Because of you, I didn't quit." She remembered the rejection. The rooftop photoshoots. The campaign they stole. The fire they lit. When she took the stage the next day, the room quieted. Hundreds of industry leaders stared up at her, expecting something polished, something safe. They got Camille Jackson instead. "I didn't come here to be inspirational," she began. "I came here because for too long, this industry has profited off our culture, but not our credit. Our beauty, but not our presence. Our language, but not our leadership." She didn't read from a script. She didn't censor her tone. She spoke about the theft. About being told she wasn't aspirational. About watching brands profit off diversity only after it became a marketing trend. She named names. She shared receipts. She didn't flinch. In the audience, used to curated stories in software form, sat stunned. Some clapped. Others squirmed. A few left early. But when she walked off the stage, her inbox was already full. Not just with praise, with offers. From independent brands, media outlets, venture firms, schools asking her to mentor students. They didn't just want her face now. They wanted her voice. And for the first time, she realized, she wasn't just disrupting the industry. She was redefining it. The studio was in downtown Manhattan, high ceilings and endless natural light pouring through the windows. But today, it wasn't the space that felt big, it was the moment. Camille stood in front of the camera, back straight, chin lifted, dressed in a soft cream suit designed by a black woman-owned brand she had handpicked herself. Her hair, the same natural coils they once told her were too much, framed her face like a crown. No filters. No retouching. No apologies. The photographer, a queer South Asian woman Camille had followed for years, gave a nod. "Ready when you are." She exhaled. This wasn't just a shoot. It was a reckoning. The assistant on set clicked play on a soft instrumental playlist, but Camille barely heard it. Her mind flashed through all the scenes that brought her here, the interview where they told her she wasn't aspirational, the rooftop campaigns, the stolen tagline, the speech that shook the room. And now this, the Forbes cover. They had reached out a month earlier, cautiously at first. "We're doing a special edition on disruptive voices in fashion." Camille didn't say yes right away. She'd heard diversity spotlight pitches before. But this time, the offer came with a promise, full editorial control. Her story, her words, her way. She agreed. Not for the press. For the girls watching. The shoot took hours. Poses. Laughs. Quiet moments between frames. At one point, the creative director leaned in and whispered, "You are not just on the cover. You are the cover." Camille smiled but didn't speak. She didn't need to. By the time the last flash went off, everyone on set clapped. Not the usual polite applause, the real kind. The kind that felt like acknowledgement. Later that evening, walking home under city lights, Camille passed a boutique where she'd once been followed around by a clerk who didn't believe she could afford the clothes. In the display window now stood a mannequin wearing a Raw Beauty Collective design. She paused. Looked up. Her reflection in the glass stared back, not a model. Not an activist. Not a trend. Just a woman who dared to change the rules. The morning the Forbes issue dropped, Camille tried to keep it simple. No press junkets. No speeches. Just coffee and a walk, like any other Thursday. But New York had other plans. As she turned the corner onto Fifth Avenue, a small crowd had already gathered, phones raised, murmuring in awe. Tourists, students, shop owners, all staring up. And there it was. A towering billboard stretching 2 stories high. Her face. Bold, natural, radiant, coils catching the morning sun, gaze steady, lips parted in quiet defiance. The same image from the Forbes cover. And just beneath it, in crisp white text, Camille Jackson, the face that changed fashion. She stopped. Just stood there, still. People pointed. Someone whispered, "That's her." A young black girl with braids tugged her mom's hand and asked, "Is she a model or a boss?" Camille turned, smiled gently, and said, "Both." And suddenly, it wasn't about the billboard. It was about every no she had ever been handed. Every time she'd been overlooked, dismissed, told she wasn't the look, the voice, the brand. It was about the thousands who had watched her rise, not because she was chosen, but because she chose herself. Her phone buzzed endlessly. Photos from across the country. Airports. Newsstands. School libraries. Messages poured in. "My daughter saw you and said, 'She looks like me.' I almost gave up, then I read your article. You didn't just change fashion. You changed the mirror." Camille took it all in, quietly. Gratefully. She wasn't the exception. She was the beginning.